YouTube, it's Tone back with another one for you. This one here is gonna be cracking the code 319th video on this here. Right here we're gonna run through some of the crucial definitions and terminology here that I think everybody should know. And let's get right into this shit. Let's get right into this. So right here we have agreement. Agreement means the bargain of the parties, in fact, as found in their language or implication from other circumstances, including course of dealing or usage of trade of course or performance as provided in this code. Whether an agreement has legal consequences is determined by the provisions of this code, if applicable, otherwise by the law of contracts, section 1-103, UCC 1-2013, compare contract. So an agreement doesn't necessarily have to be in writing. It could be by your actions, and they could try to throw you into a contract just based on your actions rather than a actual signed contract. So no, in other words, you have formed an agreement in fact and are inextricably linked with the all caps trade name by course of dealing, usage, trade, and course of performance. The legal consequences of the marriage with your strawman trade name, all caps trade name, is spelled out in the code where applicable, where not applicable. It references section 1-103, which states that all other forms of law shall supplement its provisions. The UCC is the supreme codified law on the planet. It is because everything is commercial. These people have all been corporatized. So the legal consequences are dictated under UCC. In law, and the UCC is the supreme law, there are only two kinds of people, debtors and creditors. And there's only credits and debits. There is no money. So when they start asking you for money, ask them how the hell do they expect you to pay them, and understand that behind every if they want to call it a criminal charge, which really it's civil in nature, behind every criminal charge or civil charge, if you will, is a dollar value behind it all. It's really all commercial in nature, right? So that's going to bring us back to the UCC, and that's what's going to be the supreme law. Everything else is codes and statutes of a particular corporation. UCC governs all that shit. So all capital letters written, see note. A proper name appearing in all capital letters falls outside the rules of English grammar, which authorizes the use of a capitalized letter only for a very limited number of well-defined uses, such as the initial letter of a proper name. A capital letter is defined as of letters of the large size used in the beginning of a sentence or as the first letter of a proper name, all caps ACED. No lexical authority for use of all capital letters in the name of a man or a woman has yet been referenced by those who could insist on corrupting the true name of men and women by displaying their name in all capital letters. An all capital letters written version of one's name is not one's true name, but an artificial construct existing by force of law only. No authority of English grammar recognizes such contrivance. The legal term propria persona means in one's own proper person, right? So that's going to be Latin for one's own proper person. Okay, and plenipotentiary is going to be a man who is beholden to no one and essentially is a sovereign. So how can one do anything outside of one's own proper person unless there exists some other person by whom which one could act? Using the juristic, and how could you represent yourself if you are yourself? So you see the stupid games there. So using the juristic artifice known as legal fiction, parties identified by their proper noun name have been ascribed corrupted all capital letter names. All legal pleadings, court records, and licenses use only names appearing in the all capital letters. Newborn, artificial persons existing in contemplation or by force of law alone. See legal fiction, proper, fictitious name, artificial person. Idem sonans, informer. And then we get to the next word, allodial, right? And you guys know we got the information for allodial titles and all that. So allodium, free, not holding of any lord or superior, owned without obligation or vassalage or fealty, the opposite of feudal, right? So a title to your home would be a feudal title. It would be a colorable title because you see that there's multiple parties on it, right? So you're gonna have multiple. It's gonna be like a two or three party instrument right there. So then allodium, akin by graduation, land held absolutely in one's own right and not of any lord or superior, land not subject to feudal duties or burdens, an estate held by absolute ownership without recognizing any superior to whom any duty is due on account thereof. So you see what it is there. And all they do is just play with the word. It's a bunch of word games. So everybody who thinks that words don't matter or think that we're fucking twisting them, why don't you look at these words here? Because it ain't us twisting the words, okay? We're just correcting the bullshit. That's all that we do here. So appearance. Coming into court as party of a suit, whether as plaintiff or defendant, the former proceeding by which a defendant submits himself to the jurisdiction of the court. So you never want to admit to being a defendant, okay? You're going to be the administrator for whatever the hell the straw man is. You know what I mean? And you know, once you have your UCC1 in there and all that, then you're going to be the superior lien holder on that particular straw man. So then anybody after that would have to prove that they somehow have a superior lien against you, because I mean everything is liens, and so all that they're doing when they're charging you, they're just leaning you up. So they're going to put a lien, then they're going to go draw the funds from the Treasury Department after that on the private side, okay? Because they're going to publicly lien you, and then they're going to leverage that debt and draw that money out of the Treasury Department on the private side by discounting it, OID. So they're going to go OID that, and they're going to get the check, and then they're going to deposit that into their private trust, and they think that that shit is safe until that bank gets shuts down. You know what I mean? So appellation. Right here, appeal, calling my name, name, title, pronunciation, appellation, action. Appealing. Appeal, the action of appealing to a higher court or authority, appellation. The action of appealing to a higher court or authority against the decision of an inferior one. The appeal so made, ground of appeal, title claims. The action of appealing or calling on, entreaty or earnest, address. The action of calling by name, a designation, name, or title given to a particular person or thing, to a class, a descriptive or connotative name, a name or title, the act of naming or calling, a name of designation, appealing, calling, naming, appellation. And so that's what we have there. Accost, to speak first, address, greet, manner, or act, or addressing a greeting. So to be accosted would be to be named. So that would be like, so if they send you a summons or something like that, essentially they're going to be accosting you. Accosting you, which is fucking offensive, to be honest with you, if you don't care to do business with them. You know, that's pretty much harassment, extortion, you know, all that. The significance of this term in your quest for personal sovereignty cannot be exaggerated. Appellation may be construed as simply a name, but its true meaning is infinitely more profound. Its actual meaning is that which is used by others for the purpose of gaining your attention. How you then respond after receiving such greeting address is the prerogative of a sovereign. Right? So they have everybody feeling like we're slaves, and we have some obligation to entertain them for free at that, which is pretty freaking ridiculous if you want to be real. You know, you have no obligations to any of these people at all. And even if you do business with your all caps trade name and all that shit, one thing you have to understand is that that's not you anyway. Okay? So, but if you're acting on behalf of it and using it for whatever you're using it for out in the public, they're gonna assume that you understand how the game works. So if they want to tax you on that for whatever, you know, for whatever benefits you're receiving and all that, it's not really you that received it. You received it on behalf of your all caps straw name. You know what I'm saying? So if there's any issues, essentially what you want to do is just resolve the matter. You know what I mean? I'm a little more of an asshole. Like, you know, I probably wouldn't necessarily just go ahead and do that. You know, I might throw up a little bit of some bullshit. You know, depending on the situation. So artificial, created by art or by law, existing only by force or in contemplation of law. Names of persons appearing in all capital letters are not written in English and exist only by force or in contemplation of law. Persons so named are artificial persons. See juristic person, person, proper, all capital letters written, idiom sonans, and the fictitious name. So artificial, right? They're only making reference to artificial names and artificial persons because a public entity cannot speak to a natural living man or woman because we're in different realms. We literally cannot even see one another or hear one another. So they're going to try to get you to accept the fact or accept the except to be surety or the liability for the artificial all caps name, which really isn't anything more than just a corporation or organization and individual. Okay, so artificial person. Now we have assignee, the person or persons to whom a security interest in collateral is transferred. Attachment, a security interest attaches to collateral when it becomes enforceable against the debtor with respect to the collateral unless an agreement expressly postpones the time of attachment. So when you do your UCC3 and all that, and you're throwing in, all the information as to what exactly that you do have leaned up and all that, that's going to give you a superior primary position on that lien on any and all documentation that you list inside of this financing statement, right? So then if at any point you ended up in court, you want to show up with that and go ahead and give them an opportunity to prove that they somehow have a superior lien or claim on your particular straw man, because you obviously already commercially captured him. So depending on the type of collateral, a security interest attaches and becomes enforceable under different circumstances. And that's definitely freaking enforceable. And it does serve as public notice as well. So they can play dumb all that they want. But we'll see how funny it is when they got to cut that check that they don't even have. So this is from the previous article, Article 9, which is essentially in harmony with revised Article 9 when the three basic prerequisites of a security interest exist: agreement, value, and collateral. The security agreement became enforceable between the parties and was said to attach. So you see what that is right there. So agreement, value, and collateral, and those are all listed in the UCC3 too as well. You can't fit too much on the UCC1, so that's why the UCC3 has to be in play, because you're going to send them all copies of everything that you had already agreed to with your straw man. A turn. To turn, to assign, attribute, dispose, arrange, order, appoint, constitute, ordain, decree. The analogical spelling is ATTURN, so a turn. But under the influence of the late AF became a turner. When a term passed into English law books, to turn over to another. So to a turn, an attorney essentially is to turn over. So their job is to turn you over. To assign, transfer goods, tenants, services, allegiances, to transfer oneself from one lord to another, to yield allegiance or do homage to as lord, to agree formally to be the tenant of one into whose possession the estate has passed, to do some act which constitutes a legal acknowledgement of the new landlords. So an attorney, essentially, their job is to turn you over to the courts. Attorney. The statement found in law dictionaries for the last 200 years that the word means one who acts in the turn of another's is a bad guess. For spelling, one appointed or ordained to act for another, an agent, deputy, commissioner, and perhaps with conscience reference to sense too. Attorney, in fact, private attorney, one duly appointed or constituted to act for another in business or legal matters, either generally as in payment, receipt, and invest of money, in suing and being sued, or in some specific act which the principal by reason of absence is unable to perform in person. Hence the contract in person, and by attorney frequent also. A professional and a properly qualified legal agent practicing in the courts of common law. Now, have you ever heard a freaking attorney talking about common law? No. As a solicitor practiced in the do they even know common law? These people just learn freaking some procedure and some terminology, and they throw their ass out there. So one who conducted litigation in these courts, preparing the case for barristers or counsel whose duty and privilege it is to plead and argue in open court, right? And so why would you ever want these dumbasses to go in there and start causing controversy? That's how you end up in a situation where you need to have a trial, is when you go in there and argue with these people. You really don't have to argue with these people. An advocate, pleader, mediator, specific title of the law officer or various counsels, and the clerk of various courts, the king's attorney. Descriptive designation of the legal officer now called Attorney General, Mr. Attorney, the style used in addressing these people. As an attorney, cunning. So cunning, huh? I don't really think that they're that slick. But they did have me for a freaking long time, so maybe they are. So attorney and client. His first duty is to the courts and the public, not to the client. And wherever the duty to his clients conflict with those he owes as an officer of the court in the administration of justice, the former must yield to the latter. So essentially, his first and primary duty is to the courts. And if there ever arises an issue between you and the courts, his interest must yield to the latter, which means that his interest has to be to the courts first. So the office of attorney is indispensable to the administration or justice and is intimate and peculiar in its relation to and vital to the well-being of the court. An attorney has a duty to aid the court in seeing the actions and proceedings in which he is engaged as counsel are conducted in a dignified and orderly manner, free from passion and personal animosities, and that all causes brought to an issue are tried and decided on their merits only. So duty not looked on lightly. So they do have a duty, which means that they have an obligation to uphold whatever shit that the court tells them to. So attorneys, as officers of the court, have a duty to maintain respect, which is a crazy conflict of interest. I really don't even understand how these people have gotten away with this shit for so long, because it's really a conflict of interest. So respect due to the court, looked upon lightly and cannot be shrinked under the guise of representing interests of a party litigant, arm of state. Right? So they're going to be an arm of the state. As attorney, which is a corporation, by the way, an attorney is an officer of the court, and such an officer an arm of the state. Nature and duty of obligation. One who is admitted to practice as attorney at law, both by virtue of his oath of office and customs and traditions of the legal profession, owes the court the highest duty of fidelity. The highest duty of fidelity. So pretty much it's all of them against you when you go into court. None of them are there to benefit you at all. They're all just trying to jack you, for real. So this is the rest of the attorney. Accepting employment entails duty to the courts and faithful performance of services, vital public interest. The relation of attorney and client is affected by vital public interest, letters patent. Right to practice law is a property right existing by virtue of letters patent. Corpus Juris Secundum for 1980. Practicing attorney, ability which is greater than that possessed by an average citizen. Right, so that would make them what, the hell is that word called? A nobleman, right? Nobility. Ability which is greater than that possessed by an average citizen. So does that make you better? All right, that shit is direct violation of the Constitution. Who the hell says that you're better than anybody? So accepting employment entails duty to the courts and faithful performance of services. So you see who their allegiance lies with. So it says, no, by definition, the obligations and duties of attorneys are toward the court and to the public. Now, when you see the word public, you need to think corporations, businesses, and things like that. Okay, we exist in the private as a man and woman, and every time you hear the word public, think corporation. So there, by definition, the obligations and duties of attorneys are toward the court and the public, which is the corporation. Abstraction of the mind that favors the government. And it really is just a concept. Government does not exist, but inside of your head it is a freaking religion. Okay, so never the client. Clients are fodder for the freedom, usurpation, and wealth confiscation activities of the court. Attorneys are there to ensure that the court is well stocked with paying customers. It is a rigged game, with attorneys enjoying many special privileges, such as having their fees enforced by judicial decree even when they lose, in exchange for shepherding unwitting clients' victims into the court of the sacrificial judicial altar. Clients are also wards of the court and therefore persons of unsound mind, which, every time I was there, I was not sound in mind, and so what does that mean? That they're contracting with children or people that are mentally disabled? How do you contract with a disabled person that you say is not sound of mind, but they're competent enough to put themselves in jail? Come on. The fuck out of here, bro. So attorney. Turning over, transference, assignment, the transference of his homage and serviced by a tenant to a new feudal lord, hence legal acknowledgement of the new landlord. Authenticate, which is what we do with the birth certificates, right? And some people think that it doesn't matter, but I do think that it does. And I did mine before I sent my bond off to the treasury and all that. I authenticated it, and I'm going to tell you why. Look, authenticate means to do either of the following: to sign, to execute, or to otherwise adopt a symbol or encrypt or similarly process a record in whole or in part with the present intent of the authentication person to identify the person and adopt or accept the record. So what you're doing here, UCC 9-102A7, what you're doing when you authenticate it, you're accepting it. Okay? So that's why I think it's crucial. And you know, you can think whatever you want, but by definition, you're literally freaking accepting the bond, okay, as a private banker. So that's why I do it. So, you know, I mean, you gotta learn. I mean, you gotta know this legalese, because all they do is just play stupid ass word games. And understand that everything is commercial. Don't be scared to show up with a 1099A and a 1099C and go ahead and cancel that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Get their EIN. You know what I'm saying? Which they're probably not going to want to give you, because then they're going to basically admit to being a corporation if they give you the EIN. But there's other ways to get it. You know, you can have the IRS get it for you, whatever. These people think they can do whatever they want, you know. But they do got to pay taxes on it, because it's all taxable events here that are really happening. So it is a game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these clowns. That's what I got for you for now. Till we meet again.